Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the American Mystic. This is Denise King Francisco. And gosh, I was just so busy working today, sitting here at the Temple Within, headquarters of the School of Sacred Studies. And I went downstairs to get a fresh cup of java and some homemade soup. And I thought, today would be a really good day to spend a few moments with the mystic angels and mysticism and the clairs with anyone that wishes to tune in. So that is why we are here today, just because we can. And I was so inspired to do so that I decided, what the heck. So first and foremost, if you happen to be listening to me, wherever you happen to be, I invite you to take a great big deep breath in through your nose, down through your body, through the tips of your toes and beyond, and exhale. And take another deep breath in through your chest and down through your arms, your elbows, your wrists, your hands, your fingers, your fingertips, and beyond. And exhale. And one more deep breath up through your throat, through your face, your forehead, and up through your crown chakra, your crowning glory, out into the universe. And another deep exhalation. It can feel so good to take a deep breath and fully exhale, and we forget to do that during the day. I know that I do. Sometimes we just need to take a break from whatever it is we happen to be doing. Foundation work, school work, teaching clients, whatever it happens to be in your office work. Take a deep breath. Take 3 of them, right? Live boldly. Take a moment to take 3 deep breaths. That's what I decided to do this afternoon, and to sit here for a minute with the mystic angels. First of all, thank you to everyone who continues to purchase a copy of my book, A Book of Enchantments with the Mystic Angels of Light, and also Soul Minding. I appreciate you all very much. Deep gratitude to each and every one of you. And for those of you that are wondering, where can I get a copy of A Book of Enchantments? Well, either of those books, you can learn how to order those at templewithin.com or schoolofsacredstudies.com. Well, before I launched my radio show, my podcast, I drew a card, a group card is how I like to term it, for all of us. And I was working with the 13 pillars, as I call them, the 13 illuminated angels, that particular deck. And the card that I chose was the Archangel Asariel, the ruler of the waves. The waves of what, right? The tides, the waves of information, of sound, octaves, vibration. And Asariel also happens to be the angel of discernment. Interesting. So I'd like to begin by sharing a little bit. Hey, Laura Smith, you're on. Hey, priestess. I drew Asariel, my friend, the ruler and angel of discernment. And here's what this card has to say, and here's what it says in my book, A Book of Enchantments with the Mystic Angels of Light. Search for the truth and let it be revealed. Discernment is the key to clarity and balance in all aspects of our spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional life, as well as our relationships in the seen and the unseen worlds. The Archangel Asariel helps us to gain clarity by dissolving the specters of illusion, rumor, chaos, clouded emotions, and the bonds of ignorance and negativity. Asariel helps us to uncover the truth of the matter for those who are seeking it. Wow. And that's not everything, or it's not something that everybody wishes to do, right? Seek for the real nitty-gritty, the truth, the down and dirty. How do we get a hold of, how do we connect with angels? Well, some of us grew up knowing the prayer to the guardian angels. And that was just part of my growing up, was to know that prayer and to recite it. Others have their own methodologies that they're taught as children to connect with angels, or these vibratory beings that emanate from the heart and mind of the Creator. And some of us eventually have an encounter of the angelic kind. And we need to know more. We need to learn more. We need to delve into it. And sometimes it just happens by what we think of as chance. We go into a bookstore and perhaps we see a book that encourages us, a book cover, right, that grabs our attention. And the next thing you know, we've been led to or brought to the realm of the angelics. And there are many realms of the angelics. I was taught growing up in catechism about the 9 spheres of angels. I since in my adulthood, of course, have learned that there are far more than that. But that's what I was brought up to understand. And there are many ways of understanding the angels. There are many ways of understanding spiritual experiences that we have in our lives. And discernment, when we're trying to understand anything, is the key. Each angelic presence, just like each of us, has corresponding elements, if you will, alchemy. I have alchemy. I'm a Scorpio, right? I have this attribute. I have that attribute. I have a keynote. I have a birthplace, a birth time. I have ancestors that are unique to me. We all have keynotes, something that is relevant to us, something that draws us in. If you want to draw me in, one of the easiest ways to draw me in is to hear drumming, right? Whether it's Native American drum or African drums or bagpipes. If I hear bagpipes, a drum and fife, I'm done, right? I am so drawn right into that. And for me, that's a keynote from my ancestors. It's in my blood and my bones that says, when you hear these sounds, these frequencies, these tones, perk up. It's in your stardust. It's part of your makeup. And the same thing is true when we're talking about angels. There are keynotes that attract particular angels. In the case of the Archangel Asariel, frankincense, willow, silver, emerald, ash, carnations. All of those things are keynotes, and there are many more. I mention only a few in my book, A Book of Enchantments. But when we're working with our ancestors, when we're working with angelics, or if you're somebody who enjoys, like I do, also working with animal spirits, animism, big into animism, there are keynotes, things that draw them in just like we are drawn in. I'm also somebody who really does enjoy the smell of frankincense and myrrh. And I was just talking a couple of weeks ago. Somebody asked me about maybe it was you, Laura, who asked, we were talking about favorite memories about Christmas. Hey, Nikki Jorgensen, up there at the Heartful Art Studio. We were talking about favorite memories about Christmas growing up. And for me, one of my overriding favorite memories, and this probably made me vastly different than every other teenager that I knew. Hey, Janet Smith. was that I enjoyed midnight mass. I enjoyed midnight mass because it was quiet. It was soothing to my soul. I loved hearing the mass sung and said in Latin. And I reveled in the smell of the frankincense and myrrh. Loved it. Those smells to this day draw me in. Those smells draw in sacred, and they're not relegated. Frankincense and myrrh, of course, are not relegated to Catholicism. They're not relegated to one path. Right? There's no closed door on the utilization of frankincense and myrrh, but it draws to us the sacred and the holy. When I am spending time meditating with or working with, seeking clarity with the angels, I will typically light some frankincense and myrrh, or earlier I lit some Saint Michael the Archangel incense. The old African teaching, or the old hoodoo teaching, that says what we send up is what comes back down. What we send up comes down. What does that mean? The energy that we send up through sacred ceremony, through our thoughts, our prayers, incantations, meditations, anytime we are sending energy up or outward, depending on how you look at it, that is what comes back to us. It's kind of a boomerang effect. It's not a kind of, it is. And the more potent we are with what we send up, the more precise and pristine what it is that comes back, comes down. What goes up must come down. That's an old hoodoo teaching. And so if I'm really creating a sacred space, I go all out. Let me just tell you, I'm looking at my angel altar, and there's this beautiful statue of the Holy Mother and roses and a beautiful oil lamp and one of those red votive candles and a chalice and statue of the Archangel Saint Michael, copy of the Book of Psalms. I mean, it's all out. It's really quite something beautiful. Those of you that have my book that you ordered from me personally, Soul Minding, you saw in my postcard one of the altars that I build when I'm working with the angels. But I'm very precise about what I send up. Now, if I'm in a hurry and I don't have the time or, the place or what have you to create such a lavish sacred space, I just put up a prayer, a thought. Sometimes it's an out loud prayer. Sometimes it's just in my heart and mind because I really can't do it in the middle of, buying rutabagas in the grocery store. You see what I'm saying? But I will pause for a moment while I'm in the veggie section and really pause. It's not done half-heartedly whenever I send something up. Because if I want something really good or what is needed to come back down, I don't want a half-ass response because I set up a half-ass prayer. You see what I'm saying? You get it. So that's part of, being a mystic, is to understand the mysteries, the alchemical mysteries, the mysteries of nature, which at one time were not mysteries, by the way, but over time, the course of time, those things have become a mystery. The workings of nature, the workings of the angels. Oh my goodness. And we're uncovering those again. The mystics, that would be me and you, we have returned for this time. We are all over Grandmother Earth. And it's an amazing time to be alive. All right, Laura, I'm going to pull a card for you, my friend. Here are the three of us ladies. It's the Archangel Metatron, the ruler of the celestial spheres, the Chancellor of Heaven. Laura is saying, I call upon the angels of electronics quite often in dealing with tech stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, that's great because angels are energy. That's what they are. That's really smart. Okay, Laura. The ancient and sacred wisdom teachings of all time do not change. It is our capacity to understand them that does. Well, that's a good one, isn't it? Boy, back in the medieval times, what we talk about openly right now, such as what we were just discussing, that could get you in a world of hurt. And our understanding back in the medieval times was really, the deeper understandings were relegated to clerics, to the priests, to the sages, to the priestesses, not to the average person. It just wasn't available. And even then, depending on the sect of the religion, etc., the understanding of any deep teaching is just that. It's an understanding that's only available to your capacity to understand, right? And with the evolution of who we are, we learn eventually to read between the lines. All of a sudden, the allegories and the symbolisms come alive, and the deeper teachings come out. For you, dear Laura, a time of exquisite transformation is at hand. New teachers and ancient teachings are being placed upon your path. Oh, goodness. So when we're working with the Archangel Metatron, once known as the Prophet Enoch, that'd be in the Old Testament, what are some of the correspondences? What are some of the keynotes that draw that energy that we call Metatron in? Diamond, all quartz crystals, the color white, of course, Metatron's cube, mistletoe, almond, again, frankincense, meteorite. I have a meteorite ring that I'm quite fond of. It was created for me by a jeweler whose father had access to some meteorites. I just thought about that just at this moment. Also, Thoth, Hermes, Demeter. Let me see anything else. And brilliant white. Metatron is the patron angel of seers. And the key words, some of the key words that correspond to this angelic being are wisdom, ascend, solar self, and initiation. Easy for me to say. Sometimes the angels will come a-knocking. Literally. Last night I was awoke in the middle of, I don't even know what time it was, quite honestly. But it was still dark outside early in the morning, and there was a knocking on the headboard of the bed. I mean, loud knocking. And I looked at Todd, and he's sound asleep. The cat, Dominic, he was laying next to me, so it wasn't Dominic playing with anything. Gabe has his own bed in the bedroom, and that's, I'm certain, where he was. And this knocking continued, and it was knocking so loud and so hard that the headboard was actually moving. And I asked the question, because sometimes these things can happen to greater or lesser degree. As Todd said when I told him about it, I've learned to live with it, right? As something normal in my home since I married you. But I asked the question, who's knocking? What do you want? Should I be concerned? The feeling was, my clairs said, there's no need for concern, but somebody's clearly trying to get somebody's attention. So I asked the question, who are you here for? Todd. I'm here for Todd. Ask him to inquire in the morning. Okay, I will do that if you can stop knocking on the headboard and moving the headboard. I need sleep. And I rolled over and went back to sleep. So this morning, as I was pouring a cup of coffee, Todd came down from his office. I said, oh, and by the way, here's something that happened last night and you need to look into it. This message is for you. And you apparently were too tired to hear the door knocking. And he did. I mean, he took the time to meditate, go within, find out who, what, why, where, and when, and took note of it. And he said that when he went into the meditation, what he received in the meditation in the form of a message was very clear. And it did come from a very, very old ancestor. So, they come to visit us, sometimes even when we don't go looking for them. In this case, it was an ancestor. Had a message for Todd. Tell you, when Spirit wants to get our attention, whew, there you go. Nikki Jorgensen, the Archangel Azrael, the Magus, the hereditary high priest and priestess, is here for you. One of my favorites. Azrael is one of the angelics that walks the journey of those of us who are Scorpio. It's also one of my favorite pieces of art by David Fix. I love this one. The spider web and its hair and love. Okay, so Nikki, your soul is in need of loving nourishment, quiet conversation, and reflection. Love this. Azrael, one of the greatest light emissaries in all of angelic realms, the divine being who lovingly separates the soul from the physical body at the time of our earthly passing, reminds you of the importance of taking the time to listen, to feel, to see, to smell, to taste what is not physically present, but what is wholly alive and within you and in the unseen worlds all around you. This angel also happens to be an ally of what I affectionately call the spiritual garage sale. Yep, the spiritual year-end garage sale. The card goes on to further say, the one who sees, feels, and listens, much wisdom is revealed in the sacred space and time that is spent with our angelic guides and spiritual allies each day. To the one who sees, who feels, to hear, all of those good things, and listens. This angel calls us into a sacred space for conscious breathing, conversation with Spirit, and a dialogue about the garage sale. What needs to be released in order for what is new to be born? What do your guides, angels, allies, and totems in spirit wish to share with you at this time? Take time to listen, to feel, to know, to see. This is the spiritual garage sale angel. On our birthday, sometimes at solstice or equinox, we begin to think about letting go and receiving, but particularly at this time of the year, as we're preparing for the winter solstice, which will be next week. This is the time that all of us should be taking stock of, okay, harvest is past. Now what do I let go of? And I mean that on all levels of our being. Are there relationships, things, material things, thoughts, belief systems? Think about that garage sale. What are you going to lay out on the table? What are those things that are non-negotiable? They've just got to go. That's what we're talking about here. Yeah. So your guides, and not surprisingly, in your course of study, guides, angels, ancestors, Azrael is reassuring you that this is the time to sit a spell. Yeah. Nikki's saying, this is perfect. I so need to have a spiritual garage sale. Yeah, I like to keep things practical. Yep. Oh my goodness, Nikki. I have to just say, if you have not gone to Nikki's website, you really need to. Nikki, if you would put that in the chat room, I would really appreciate it. If you follow me on Instagram, I also have an Instagram account. Well, I have one for my personal stuff for friends and family. I have one for the Temple Within and the School of Sacred Studies, and I have an Instagram for Gathering Thunder Foundation. And Nikki created for all of the youth at the Native American Education Program beautiful dream catcher Christmas ornaments, or actually just ornaments, or just dream catchers. They're spectacular. And these things have been such a hit. I was barely sipping my first cup of coffee this morning and got a note from Rhonda Loon's Foot. Rhonda heads up a lot of things, actually, in the Native community here in Grand Rapids. She is a Diné woman from the Navajo Nation originally, but she lives here in Grand Rapids now. And straight away, she saw photos and heard about those beautiful ornaments. And I just want to say, as they would say here in West Michigan, chi miigwech to you, Nikki. Whatever angel or ancestor tapped you on the shoulder and encouraged you to make those for the children, they are over the moon with those. So thank you. She's saying, I will be adding the dream catchers to the website when I get back to taking orders. Do you hear that, everybody? You've got to see these things. Her website, by the way, is Heartful, Heartfulartstudio.com. Heartfulartstudio.com. Check it out. She just did some beautiful work for Gathering Thunder as well, as she's been doing for years. So she's incredibly gifted. All right, Janet Smith, over there on the other side of the pond. It's evening for you, my friend. It is evening. Janet hails from Scotland, now lives in England. She's a Scotswoman, one of my kin. I was explaining to my son Dane the other day, we got on the subject of Tartans. And correct me if I'm wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong on this, Janet. Explaining how Tartans represent certain clans and families. And they do also the fabrics themselves, the colors have changed over time. Like Todd has a handmade, stunning kilt made in Atlanta, Georgia, from Atlanta Kilts. And we had his done in the ancient Somerville tartan pattern. It is beautiful. And the stockings with the, the tag out the side and the whole thing. And a beautiful wrap of the ancient Somerville. And Dane and I were talking about, because his girlfriend was reading a copy of my book, Soul Minding. And in the book, I talk about when Dane came to me in a dream before he was born. And he was wearing a beautiful tartan. And he was wearing a tam. His hat was this beautiful tartan that I later discovered at Stirling Castle. Remember Laura and Nikki when we were up in Scotland at Stirling Castle. And I was in the gift shop, and wham, there it was. And I immediately purchased a scarf for Dane. And I learned that it was the tartan of Clan MacDonald. And that the MacDonald castle, at least one of them, is still on the Isle of Skye in the Highlands of Scotland. And we talked about how sometimes we are drawn to one portion of our ancestry more than another. Dane's question to me was, why would I come to you wearing that? Before I was born, before you even knew that your great-grandfather's name was Angus MacDonald King. It only took me 2 minutes to research Angus MacDonald King to find out a whole lot of stuff about the ancestors. But what I said to Dane was, one day I will take you to the Highlands of Scotland. And I will have you feel what it feels like to be on that land. And then you can tell me why you came to me in the dream, wearing the tartan of your grandfathers and your grandmothers. Because I can't really explain it. You have to feel it. Sometimes our clairsentience informs us. And Janet is saying, I was born near Stirling. I love that. Laura is saying, Scotland is my favorite place on the whole. It is too. That is her very favorite place. The Highlands of Scotland. Oh my God. I remember getting there and taking a deep breath and looking at Todd and saying, I'm home. Right? There's a part of me that's home. The Scotswoman said, well, here we are. Here we are. So Dane plans to go with Todd and I to the Highlands. He likes to travel so he can feel it for himself. He loves being in the South in the United States. Dane has always felt very at home and peaceful and engaged in life when he is in the southern states. The minute he gets down south of what we call here the Mason-Dixon line, the north and the south, when we get to the south, Dane has felt, and he'll tell you this to this day, he feels very at home and more drawn to the southern states than he does to the northern states. That's also ancestral for hundreds of years. So it's interesting how our mystical, our psychic, our soul, ancestral senses say to us, this is familiar. This draws our soul. Understanding the alchemy of that, we can take that right into the realms of our spiritual allies, the saints, the angels, the avatars, etc. Okay, so Janet, I am going to draw a card for you, my friend. Dun, dun, dun. Just shuffling away, having a good old time. And the one that pops to the top is the Archangel Saint Michael, Michael. And again, I'm working through the Book of Enchantments with the mystic angels of light. So I can use my deck of 33 from the Mystic Angels and go to my book and look at, the further teaching. So if you don't have the deck of 13 or you're wondering, how can I use these? Well, you can. You can take your deck of 33, whether it's digital or you have the physical deck, which is now out of print. And I saw, believe it or not, online the other day, somebody asking $900. It was over $900 for a brand new deck of my Mystic Angels cards. Isn't that something? I don't know how I feel about that. But anyway, that's a whole other show, right? So if you have the deck of 33, you can get it digitally for your Android or your Apple, or if you happen to have the deck of cards, use them in tandem with the book of Enchantments. David Fix and I will be, once he gets this latest master's degree in the books, which will be next summer, we will be working on the deck of 36. So anyway, back to Janet. Janet, Michael, the Prince of Light, the ruler of the fourth heaven. I love this. The depths to which we are able to descend correspond to the heights that we are able to ascend. Walking the path of the mystic requires balance and integrity. In the physical and non-physical worlds around and within us, banishing negativity in order to expose and expand the brilliance of light often takes great courage and discipline. So too, setting healthy and stable boundaries is rarely easy, and maintaining those borders can be harder still. Oh my goodness. Oh, I should have drawn this card for me for this past week, huh, Laura? Saint Michael, the beloved archangel of the celestial spheres, lovingly invites you, Janet, to contemplate that which may be out of balance in your life, in your spiritual practice, or in your work. It's time to restore your equilibrium. Asking Michael to assist you in this endeavor will bring positive changes in gentle, measured ways. I love that. It's all about balance. The ascending and descending pyramid, the Merkabah, it's all of those teachings. Correspondences to the Archangel Saint Michael, some of them. I am not the end-all, beat-all, trust me, everybody, when it comes to angels or any of this stuff. I'm just me. One person with what I know in my little part of the universe. It's all I can share is what I've studied and what I know based on my experiences. So, of course, there's more. I invite everybody to learn more. Gold, brass, amber, tiger's eye, Regulus, purple, cedar, the direction of the west. In some traditions, it's the direction of the east. Again, for various teachings, various understandings. The wolf, sparrowhawk, butterfly, hibiscus, the sunflower, and, of course, frankincense. The key words for Michael are descend, ascend, Merkabah, light body, Christ Michael. The angels are not, again, regulated to any of the Abrahamic religions or all of them. They exist far beyond that. In the Abrahamic traditions, they're called typically angels, angelus, variations of that name. But these beings go by many names, and they are not relegated to a certain path or a certain practice. For instance, a lot here in the United States, many hoodoo practitioners, and hoodoo is a wonderful folk tradition that comes from our ancestors, some of us that have ancestors that came here from Africa at the time of slavery. Many hoodoo practitioners have magnificent statues of the Archangel Saint Michael on their altars, on their walls. They work with the Archangel Saint Michael the same way that practitioners of Catholicism or what have you do. The point in all of this is simply that they are not just for just. They are not a closed subject. That's really kind of a popular thing right now. Well, that learning is closed. Those teachings are closed. The angels being octaves from the heart and mind of creator, creatrix, all that is, call it what you will, right? It's part of the experience by whatever name they are called, or you choose to call them. Yeah. So here we are. I'm going to I forgot to pull something up, so bear with me, everybody, for half a little minute here. I'm still here. I'm looking something up real quick. It's just us. And if you happen to be driving right now, or you're just listening in or what have you, all right. The 21st solstice, winter solstice. You may wish to invite your favorite guardian angel or your favorite angelic to be with you. It's return of the sun. Maybe it's the Archangel Saint Uriel, the regent of the sun, that you invite. With solstice coming up and the days in between, spend some time. Spend some sacred time with your mystical self. Some people feel more mystical if they put a crystal necklace on, right? Or they're holding their crystals, or they light the incense. Do whatever it takes that evokes your inner mystic, your sacred self, your ancient self. Bring that part of you to the forefront. Take some time. Consider the year-end garage sale. Consider it. Take note. Act upon it. And remember, what you put up is what comes down. With that, everybody, have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining me today here randomly, or not randomly, on The American Mystic. This is Denise King Francisco, and have a beautiful day, gorgeous day. Get out there and shine. Blessings be, everybody.